Hello everyone, Token Deathmage here. We are once again checking out Pokemon Elite Redux. For those of you who have been living under a rock and are not aware, Elite Redux is the incredible romhack developed by a talented team headed by one James Lyons. They've reworked old Pokemon, giving them new types where appropriate, as well as new moves and abilities. There are new evolutions for some Pokemon, and new regional variants called Redux forms. The big draw of the hack is the innate system, where every Mon has 4 abilities. It's got competitive mechanics, so you can't heal in battle with potions, and you're forced into set mode, like Pokemon Showdown. We're going to be playing monoghost today. My personal rules are as follows. Anything that is a ghost, or can evolve into a ghost, is valid. So I can use Mankey, because Annihilate exists, even though Mankey himself is not a ghost. I can't use legendaries or mythicals, because I just don't like doing that when I play Pokemon games. I'm using permanent Mega Mode, which is an option in Elite Redux, because I think it's really cool. I'm playing on Elite Mode, but I am using the Ace Mode caps. Unlike your typical Hoenn adventure, we begin by jumping out of bed, not out of the back of a moving truck. But it must be a dream, because there's a girl in my room. She asked me what type I want my starter to be, and I say ghost. Heading downstairs, my mom gives me an old rod, which I'm actually really excited for, because I have big dreams for Magikarp on this playthrough. We head out to find the professor being attacked by a Zigzagoon, which apparently he can't handle. Starter choices for ghost are Ghastly, Litwick, and Phantump. We're going with Phantump here because in Elite Redux it has a new evolution. A couple of feint attacks take out the Zigzagoon, and the professor allows us to keep our Pokemon. He then asks us to meet up with his daughter. We get distracted and head to the Pokemon Center, where the nurse gives us a Dex Nav, as well as pretty much every competitive item in the game. Taking advantage of all this free stuff, we give our Phantump a Citrus Berry, deck out its EVs, its nature, and then change its moves to a full competitive moveset, all for the price of nothing. Now you guys can see why I'm so lazy. We then head over to the old man, calling her Sylvania. Heading outside, the Dex Nav allows us to grab a whole bunch of other encounters where we deck out our starter roster. They include Mandy, Duskull, Annabelle the Shuppet, Sandra the Sandygas, and Hakai the Mankey. We then head to the Adoption Center where you can buy Redux Mons for battle points and get ourselves a Redux Noibat. We promptly name her Serana. Wait, did he say beat up or meet up? I can't remember. Mandy's low visibility summons fog at the new ghost-type weather. We're also able to go first because of Twisted Dimensions, setting up Trick Room, so we get a burn-off right away. The Trico goes for a Seed Bomb, but it barely tickles us. We smack back hard with a Shadow Bone, dropping its defense, and sealing its fate for Shadow Sneak to take it out. May's second Pokemon, Goomy, is a special attacker, so I send an Annabelle to scare it. I go for Bloodshot, but it protects itself. Can't see why it wouldn't want a bunch of nasty blood sprayed all in its face. A couple of Water Pulses takes out my Pokemon. But Serana is able to come in and clean house with Dragon Claw. That was such an easy fight, and what could possibly go wrong? Calvin is the reason that a lot of people stop playing this game before they really even start. He's kind of the gatekeeper of the community. On Elite Mode, he leads with a Ready to Action Tinkaton. Ready to Action is a devastating ability which doubles attack on the first turn, but we have Protect, so we don't have to worry about it. Calvin goes for Stealth Rocks, we go for Leech Seed to get a bit of extra damage every turn. He hits a Play Rough, which lowers our attack, but also brings us below half health, activating our Citrus Berry. As I go for Creeping Thorns, the Grass-type Stealth Rock equivalent. I Protect again, just to stall him out. Calvin is too smart for my Protect strategies and switches out into a Tandemaus. I can't even hit this thing because it's a normal type, so I just go for a Leech Seed. Knowing that Hakai is probably the best option here, I switch out into him, preparing to 1-inch punch a hole through this thing. He goes for Charm though, and tries to lower our attack. The Tandemaus' attempt at Charm is futile, and Hakai destroys it. He then swaps back into his Tinkaton, but it also isn't strong enough to tank a 1-inch punch. Not sure why he thought a Dark type was the best thing to switch into a fighting type who's sweeping his team. Normally this Arena Trap Diglett is a huge problem, but we took care of its Focus Sash with Creeping Thorns, and this thing is an absolute wall. I go into Sylvania to try to get a Leech Seed on it, to counteract the Aqua Ring, but I forget that grassy terrain will just heal it back a little bit as well, so that was kind of pointless. So I swap into Mandy to set up Fog. After about 100 Shadow Bones, I finally get the defense drop that I was looking for, hoping to make this thing a little bit squishier. Mandy puts in a lot of good work, but finally goes down to a Surf. So we go into Annabelle. It's then that I remember, oh yeah, Bleed can prevent healing. And the Slack Off says, yeah, but healing can cure bleed. Confident that it won't just slack off again, I go for another Bloodshot. as he flip turns out into a Shedinja, which immediately dies to Creeping Thorns. Seal comes back in and steps on the Legos as well. A headbutt flinches it, the Seal goes down to bleed, and the souls of 1,000 noobs crying out in anger are avenged. Between Calvin and Petalburg Woods, there aren't really any important trainers to fight. We did, however, catch a Gimmighoul and a Dreepy, then fish up this Magikarp to add to the team. Petalburg Woods is currently bugged and will wrong warp you to the exit. This guy jumps down our throat to tell us about the gym skill system. Basically, every gym trainer is optional, however, the gym leader will get a different buff for each one you don't defeat. So we've got to take care of these guys before we can fight Roxanne. With Hakai on our side, that isn't much of an issue, and he 1-inch punches a hole through everything, and anything he can't, Cheddar is there to flash cannon. As you can see, Roxanne's team is fairly balanced. You can't just run in with a mon that Rock is weak to and hope to sweep like it's vanilla Pokemon. She's got a Bombardier to dodge earthquakes, with dual wing beat to handle fighting types, a water absorb wish cache, and a burn up mad cargo to cover grass with a focus sash to make sure that it takes at least one hit. Like Brock before her, Roxanne uses a giant stone snake to try to intimidate new trainers. We go for a leech seed to try to get our periodic damage going, as Roxanne crits a jagged fangs and gets an attack increase. I try to go for creeping thorns to take care of any sturdy she might have in play later, but the Onyx goes for a second Jagged Fangs, and gets yet another attack increase, sending its stats into the stratosphere. So I have to swap in a Manny to set up Fog and take it down a little bit. We eat a hit, the Fog does its job, and the grassy terrain takes us back to about half. With a combination of Leech Seed damage and Shadow Bone, we take the Onyx out. And then Roxanne brings in her Bombardier. I want to go for a Will-O-Wisp, but it's too fast and kills us with Rock Slide, so I swap into my Steel Pokemon to try to resist her Rock. Flings a King's Rock, though, doing massive Dark-type damage. Knowing that she can endure quite a lot of pain, I go into Sandra and start spamming Ominous Wind. After just 2 tries, I get the Omni boost that I was looking for, and then our stat-boosted attack takes it down. Roxanne sends out her Mad Cargo. It burns itself out, but does nothing to us, and we get another Omni boost as we hit back with Ominous Wind. Next up is Wish Cache. A waterfall activates our water compactor ability, raising our defense. And despite its Rindo Berry, our Mega Drain deals massive damage. One more takes it out, and Roxanne's down to her final 2. Creeping Thorns does huge entry damage to this water rock type, and another Mega Drain finishes the job. Knacklestack comes in, but he's impenetrable and doesn't take Creeping Thorns damage. Earth Power takes it down. And with that, Roxanne is defeated, and our first gym badge is in hand. Defeating Roxanne gets us a level cap increase, and with that comes a lot of evolutions. Our starter Phantom evolves into a Trevenant. Our Dreepy becomes a Dracloak, getting the amazing Parental Bond ability. Our Redux Noibat becomes a Redux Noivern straight from Radical Red. And Levi the Magikarp turns into a sweet, sweet Gyaradeath. Exiting the gym, we see a Team Aqua Grunt run off with this guy's goods, whatever that means, and being the totally normal, functional adult that he is, he decides that a 10-year-old is the best person to help him and sends us after this dangerous criminal. After talking to an old man outside the cave, we find the thief hiding inside, eloping with his secret bird lover. Embarrassed to be caught, he challenges us to a match, leading with his own Dracloak, but it's no match for Mandy's Trick Room shenanigans, and it goes down to a Shadow Bone after taking heavy damage from Astonish. Carvana comes in next, and is hit surprisingly hard by another Shadow Bone, suffering a defense drop before taking us out with Crunch and healing itself up a bit with Predator. We send in Hakai, our Dark-type answer, who switches into a hyper-aggressive Aqua Jet, getting 2 Anger Point buffs before his turn, and 1-inch punching the Carvana so hard that I think its entire species went extinct, but going down to rough skin in the process. Our Gyaradeath comes out next, getting a +1 attack boost on entry because it's in Fog thanks to its Greater Spirit ability. He absolutely tanks a super effective knockoff, hitting back with an Aqua Fang to soften up the opponent's muck. Before Shadow Fang takes it out for good. We go for a Thunder Fang on the Kingler, but it's too fast and kills us with Crab Hammer, cursing itself in the process. A Horn Leech from Trevenant does massive damage to it, and Masquerain comes in to follow. We go Cheddar to survive an Air Slash and Shadow Ball it right in the face. Not quite doing enough to kill it though, so Scare Force has to come in and clean up the mess. The final Mon is Clodsire, who eats a Shadow Ball upon switch, and then dies to a Dragon Pulse. Now we find out that the guy's goods are Devon parts, and give the old man his bird wife back. May's back to try for some revenge, but it's gonna go about as well as the first time for her. A couple of Ice Punches take out her Swellow, and she brings in Golurk, who takes very little from a Shadow Bone before taking us out with Shadow Punch of its own. So we go into Levi and swallow it whole with the Shadow Fangs. Aquafangs rips through the Rapidash, but we suffer a burn from Flame Body, where Shadowfangs doesn't do very much. A Dragon Pulse from Scare Force takes it out, and an Air Slash does the same to the Grovyle, even though it has a Focus Sash thanks to our parental bond. Sylvania comes out against the Monferno. Hornleech takes it down to its sack, so we finish it off with a Shadow Ball from Scare Force. We hitch a ride with the old man over to Dewford, and in a creepy house pick up Ghastly, Mischievous, Hoot Hoot, and Litwick. We then evolve the Ghastly and Haunter and teach an eerie spell readying for the fighting gym later on. Now we have to fight Steve, who needs to chill, who brings a Genesect against a guy with one badge. Readily, put those things away. You can't wave those around, this is a kid's game. Steve's next Pokemon is Aerodactyl. A 1-inch punch it out. Then comes in the terrifying Genesect. I swap out an Amandi to get Fog going and get rid of its attack buff. A Zap Cannon paralyzes me and actually makes me faster because we're in Trick Room. Switching to Lampent gets hit by a Steel Beam. Hangs on with 6 and takes out the Genesect. Mr. Mega Evolves to get Arms comes in next. Stone Edge crit almost takes us out, and then an Ice Fangs crit actually does. Cheddar comes in and hit it with Flash Cannon, but a Waterfall takes him out too. So Hakai has to finish it off with 1-inch punch. Steve's Ace Metagross comes in next. So we switch out into Lampent. It was gonna die anyway, so we use it as a sacrifice. And get a clean switch into Levi. Greater Spirit raises his attack. Shadowfangs takes this thing down below half in one hit. A second Shadowfangs takes it out, and Larion comes in. Aquafangs doesn't do much, and we get hit by its iron barbs. It misses a Stone Edge, and a second Aquafangs takes it down below half. A third finally takes it out. We narrowly avoid dying to Iron Barb. I treat myself to a Hone Edge. We take the boat over to Slateport, and I tell Brawly to go home so that we can fight. A real fighting type gym leader, he leads with the Ghost Rock type. We astonish it to do a little bit of damage, then switch into Levi, who tanks a Spirit Shackle, before hitting back with Shadowfang, doing mass damage and taking out the Noivern. Brawly then goes into his definitely fighting type Patterine, and a Tri-Attack burns us. Because of the burn, we don't kill here. I have to stall out a turn with Protect to harvest my berry back and get another Shadow Claw in. Shadow Claw takes the Hatterene out, and Brawly goes into his Redux Bisharp. I set up Creeping Thorn, prepare for something a little bit later. I managed to land a Shadow Claw, but it doesn't do much damage, and go down to an Excalibur, before trying to get tricky with Mischievous, but missing the disable. Excalibur takes me down to Sash. I land a Pixie Beam. The thing just barely survived, but go into Mandy and finish it off with an Astonish. The Lumber that I was waiting for comes in and takes a little bit from the Creeping Thorn, setting up some Stealth Rocks of his own. I go into Scare Force and Shadow Ball, but it's not enough, and a Jagged Punch takes me out. Cheshire, who I totally forgot to name, comes in and finishes him off with an Eerie Spell, and a second Eerie Spell does massive damage to the Electivire as well. But Plasma Fist hits harder than a Haunter can handle. So I go into Levi trying to tank a hit, but he goes down, and the Electivire goes down to Curse. Haunter is my last Pokemon, and a final Eerie Spell nets me the victory. Defeating Brawly nets us even more evolutions. Our Duskull becomes a Dusclops, our Mischievous a Mismagius, our Sandygast a Palisand, our new Hone Edge a Doublade, Annabelle becomes a Banette, and Cheshire a Gengar. Next match is a Gauntlet battle, where you have to fight 3 opponents in a row without healing, and honestly it's kind of annoying. First guy leads Gloom, and we go Georgia to get the fog going and start spamming Calm Mind. An Energy Ball does nothing to us, and we one-shot it with an Air Slash. He goes into his low kicks with Showdown mode, so we switch out into Sandra, who's built to take physical hits, but an Axe Kick almost kills us in one shot, and hits us with Confusion. We chip the low kicks with our helmet, and then hit it with a Soil Drain, but die to Confusion. So we have to go into our Mismagius to finish it off with Requiem. One guy down, 2 to go. Second guy leads with a Poliwrath, which is an easy target for Georgie's Air Slash, but a critical Torrent Fist gets me kinda scared, so I switch out into Sylvania, and take it down with a Horn Leech. He brings in Swalot, so I swap back into Georgie, and go for a Strength Sap. My attempts to heal are futile as it has Ice Beam, so I just hit it with an Ominous Wind, and we were lucky enough to get an Omni Boost. We go back and forth a bit, but I come out on top, and they send in their boss Archie to take me on. Crobat hits Georgie with Cross Poison, but he did his job and set the fog up for the mighty hero Artorias to come in and face the Abyss down. Dual-wield Shadow Claw tears through the Crobat, then we take a Shadow Claw of our own from a Redux Gabite. It only takes us to about half, and we hit back, taking it down in just one shot. Torpedo comes in, and thanks to the crazy defense boost of Eviolite plus Fog, we're able to live a crunch, even though it's stab. And our dual-wield Sacred Sword hits right through its Focus Sash. Soul Eater heals us up to keep going, as Archie goes into Electros. Shadow Claw takes it down. Sacred Sword brings Gudra to about half. It goes for a Steel Beam, but we take it like a champ, slaying the dragon. Archie brought his own Ghost Steel type in the back, but it goes for Power Whip instead of Poltergeist. A fatal mistake on his part. Did Doublade really just solo that? That was awesome. Despite the spectacular ass-whooping we just gave Archie and her terrible track record, May challenges us once again, leading with her Swallow. We swap in a Tesla, blocking a boom burst before tanking a Hurricane. An electric-type Hyper Voice takes the bird down, and she goes into her Rapidash, which hits us with a high horsepower and chips itself on our rocky helmet. Solar Drain buries the horse. May goes into her Golurk, takes down with a Rage Fist, so we go Levi, hoping a Shadow Fangs will be enough to save us. Not, a Rage Fist kills him as well. Cheshire comes in, gets an Omni boost with an Ominous Wind, and then takes out the Infernape as well. But May sends in her Gudra, also can't tank an Ominous Wind from our boosted Gengar. Go down to Life Orb, but Shallow Grave gives us another chance, and we send out Artorias to slay the dragon. They have an epic sword fight, Shadow Claw prevails, and May once again leaves disappointed. I realize that this game is kind of just the Dark Souls 3 of Pokemon, where you run between bosses and fight a couple of other guys in between, and that's exactly why I love it. I also remember that I'm supposed to shout out Kyle the Eevee in this video, so hey Kyle, shout out to you. The Absolute isn't very smart and lets us set up hazards, swaps into an Armor Rouge, which takes heavy damage from said hazard. He hits us with an Armor Cannon, lowering his defensive, and then a Soil Drain heals back most of the damage. Swap out into Tesla, who tanks another Armor Cannon thanks to its Assault Vest. And then with a Ghastly Echo pivots out into Cheshire. Powered by the Ghastly Echo, Cheshire takes out the Garchomp. Wally goes into his op. Try to go for Aura Sphere, but Wally gets 2 protects in a row. And luck just isn't on my side because a Sucker Punch hits me on the 3rd one. So I go into Georgie and start setting up Calm Mind. King Gambit's Tachyon Cutter almost takes us out, but we heal up with a Strength Sap, lowering its attack in the process. He just barely survives an Air Slash. The second Tachyon Cutter pops my balloon. But we bring in Cheshire again, who lives thanks to Shallow Grave, though with an Aura Sphere. Finally able to break through the Obstagoon's defenses. It goes down to Aura Sphere as well. And Gardevoir survives thanks to its Focus Sash while we die to our Life Orb. Tesla tanks another Shadow Ball, and then pivots out with Ghastly Echo again, going into Artorias, who Shadow Claws a Roserade, and Wally goes down, sending us into the gym, where we can see that the real fight is not going blind. After taking down the gym trainers and applying some burn cream to our eyeballs, we're ready to take on Old Man Watson, who leads with a Tapu Koko. We go Georgie to get the fog rolling, and then swap into Tesla to absorb the Thunderbolt with Lightning Rod. We tank a Weather Ball, then one-shot the Island Guardian with Hyper Voice. Flare Blitz does massive damage between our Rocky Helmet and the Recoil, almost taking the Rapidash out. But it's crazy fast with Speed Boost, so we have to go into Cheshire and rely on Curse Strategy to take it down. Clodofiscer comes out next, so we swap back in at Tesla to tank a special shot. Then Hyper Voice takes him down to about half, as Watson swaps into his own Redux Exploud. So we have to use Hidden Power Ground, but it doesn't do much. Synchronoise kills us in one shot, so we go into a Alolan Marowak, who has ridiculously overpowered Shadow Bone damage. He takes down the Exploud and the Clodofiscer. Then we go Georgie against Iron Hands to get the fog back up. A Plasma Fist can't even pop my balloon, surprisingly, but a Bullet Punch does. And we bring Cheshire out against a second Bullet Punch to get a curse up. With a bit of damage on it, Wacko's Bone Club destroys the Iron Hands. And a Shadow Bone takes out the Alolan Raichu, getting us our 3rd badge, setting us on the long road to the next gym. Watson down, and that means evolution time again. Our Dracloak becomes a Dragapult, soon to take full advantage of swirly glasses. Mandy matures into Dusknoir, getting back the Trick Room and Fog Setting ability that it lost as Dusclops. Cheddar becomes the Big Cheese Goldango. Our little Lampent turns into a Chandelure. And we get ourselves a new Fog Setter in Fantal. Before we can proceed to our next gym battle, we've got to stop and help May against Team Magma in this cave. Let's be honest, we know she needs the help. They lead with an interesting combination of a Sunsetter and a Cherim, who takes advantage of it with its ability. But we have a slow Fog Setter and we take the weather back. May's physical attacker goes for a special attack for some reason, showcasing her incredible strategy. Ninetales hits with a Dazzling Gleam, which take her Reptile down to less than half. Then we tank a Solar Beam with our bird, ripping an Ominous Wind in the fog, taking care of the Cherim. Sucker Punch from the Sagaractus almost kills us, then an Ominous Wind takes the Ninetales down. The admin sends out their Houndoom, taking advantage of the fog themselves, but a Blaze Kick from May's Rapidash is able to put it in the ground. We roost up to get some health back, and May Blaze Kicks the Lilligant that comes in. Sagaractus' signature move Pitfall kills the Rapidash, but it takes a burn from Flame Body as May goes into Mimikyu. Knowing that there's a Fire type coming out soon, I swap in a Sandra, and May finishes off the Sagaractus with her Mimikyu. Shadow Claw doesn't do much to the Arcanine, and an unfortunate Snarl drops our special attack. Soil Drain buries this old dog. Then Archie comes to scare the Team Magma guys away. We follow them up to a volcano, where we are treated to this beautiful Game Boy Advance cutscene. Now we gotta fight their boss, Maxie, who leads with an Ultra Beast. But we have a bulky special wall, so we take his Draco Meteor, no problem. Ominous Wind takes him down to Focus Sash range, and he keeps lowering his own special attack, so we're just gonna roost up. I switch into Sandra against the Lycanroc so it can hurt itself on the Rocky Helmet. Tanking a Crunch, we set up some Stealth Rocks, and then Soil Drain to get our health back and take the Lycanroc out. Hydreigon comes in, so we swap out into Luna, trying to get a Moonblast off, but go down to Dark Pulse. So I bring in Zippo to hit a Fire Blast, but it doesn't do enough. I should have thought of Shark Bait before, and a Choice Scarf Ice Fang takes the Hydreigon out. Then we take a Crunch and Ice Fang the Crobat too. It almost lives, but Hyper Aggressive kills it, and Maxie brings in his Venusaur, which Mega evolved to the physical variant. We crit a Terror Locks and take this thing down. Then Maxie goes into his Camerupt, his second Mega, which kills Turbo Granny with a Searing Shot. So Sharkbait comes in and finishes it off with Last Respects, and Maxie learns the same lesson Archie did. With all that out of the way, we can finally fight Flannery. And I'm actually prepared this time, thanks to my buddy Ryan the Flygon, so shout out to you. We Dragon Dance against the Walking Wake to make sure we're faster. And then a Dragon Pulse takes us down to our Focus Sash. Let our Dragon Darts fly, proving that we are the superior Drake. Then Ceruledge comes in and we hit it with a Shadow Claw, using Parental Bond to get around that weak armor Focus Sash strategy. Bolt can't do much against Wigglytuff Wise, so we just U-turn out into Cheshire, who tanks a Draining Kiss and then hits it with a Sludge Bomb. We go Mandy and Astonish, then swap back into Scare Force to tactically sacrifice it in order to get a second Astonish off, but it's still not enough. Third hit finally takes down the Wigglytuff, surprisingly the toughest opponent so far, as Arcanine comes in. And hoping it's a Fire-type move, we go Sandra, but it's Woodhammer, and we take massive damage. But at least we get to chip it a little bit with the Rocky Helmet. E-Speed crashes our castle, and between Rocky Helmet and Life Orb, this thing almost takes itself out, so we go Mandy and Astonish it to finish it off. Entei comes in and uses Sacred Fire, which Mandy tanks pretty well, but gets burned. So we go into Sharkbait and flip turn out, doing a bunch of damage, switching into Serana, who lands on a Sappy Seed, almost going down to this Entei's Grass-type coverage. She hits a Jagged Fangs, taking the Legendary down, and Flannery's Ace, Mega Charizard, comes in. But we're still faster, and rip a second Jagged Fangs, defeating Flannery and earning us our 4th badge and a short walk over to Norman. Defeating Flannery was lots of neat things. First of all, we finally get the 3rd form of our starter, Dreadwood, and although it lost Harvest, it does get Last Respects. We got Draco Meteor and Raging Souls, unlocking the full might of Swirlypolt. It also meant the path to Norman was unlocked, and that means Mega Bracelet time. We got Mega Bayonet with Prankster Destiny Bond, Mega Redux Frostlass, whose Bloodstain is currently bugged, Mega Gengar, who can now hit normal types with Phantom Pain, Levi goes from Sweeper to Stall with Mega Gyarados X, and one of my favorite Redux Pokemon, Redux Mawile, joins the team. Mega Bracelet in hand, we're ready to fight dear old dad. He leads with his Kangaskhan, and we of course go Luna to get the fog up, taking a Fake Out, and then a Comet Punch before Take Flighting out to Isis, who bites the Kangaskhan down. Ursaluna comes in, and Mega evolves, so we go Sylvania to get a Leech Seed up. Tank a Play Rough, and then Horn Leech, this ground type, hoping it would do a little bit more, but we get some health back anyway. Second Horn Leech does the damage I was looking for, and Norman goes into his Bayonet, which also Mega evolves. Spectral Thief hits us hard, but it's not enough to take us down, and we Horn Leech the Bayonet back, getting a respectable amount of health back in the process. We go back and forth like that again, and I come out on top. And Norman goes into his Bewarden, Redux exclusive Beware Pollution. It Axe Kicks Levi, then takes a bit of damage to Funeral Pyre. Anticipating another Axe Kick, we Protect, and he takes massive crash damage, then almost dies to the Curse. Fog wears out, so we swap back into Luna, goes down to the Bewarden, and we go into Iris and hit it with an Iron Fangs. Norman then goes into Persian, but our goddess consumes the cat, and his last Pokemon is his Exploud, which we brought Tesla for with Noise Cancel. We critical hit a hidden power, taking it down in one shot. And make Dad proud of us. Getting the balance badge. Following our fight with dear old Dad, we head east in order to get our next badge, but run into Steve and Stone again. When last we met Steve, I was with the learner. Now I am the OP one. Steve leads with his Cleavor, and we lead Luna to get the fog going. He goes for Stone Axe, getting stealth rocks up, as we take flight out, going into Artorias, who's much better at handling rock-type attack. He kills the Cleavor with a critical cut. Steve swaps onto his Magirna, so we send in Levi, and his special attack-reducing ability helps him take a Boom Burst. Funeral Pyre ticks the Magirna down a little bit, then we finish it off with a Pyro Ball. Steve brings his Aggron in and Mega Evolves it, and we go into Annabelle to get Intimidate off. He goes for a Head Smash but misses, and we chip it a little bit with Astonish, and then Parting Shot out, weakening it even further, going into Sandra. Steve goes for an Excalibur, then switches out into his Iron Valiant, who comes in on a Soil Drain, losing its protectability. We swap out Luna, as Steve goes into Metagross, taking us down with a Zen Headbutt. So I bring in Isis, who deals massive damage with an Astonish, then kills it with Bite. Iron Valiant comes back out and destroys our Dark type with a Flower Cannon. So we go back into Artorias, who easily tanks a Koto Cleave and kills the Fairy with Cut. Dracovish comes in next, so we swap back out into Sandra, allowing it to hit us with Crunch and get hit by our Rocky Helmet. We go back and forth like that a while, and then I shore up to get my health back. And eventually Dracovish goes down to Helmet Stall. Aggron kills Sandra, and we go back in Annabelle, dropping its attack once again with Intimidate, getting halved by an Excalibur, and then tricking Steve with Destiny Bond, defeating him in the most hilarious way. First up on a long list of girls we have to fight in a row is Aqua Admin Shelly. She leads with a Suicune, which would normally be pretty scary, but I know my mon has ridiculous special defense, and I just turn out to an electric type with an Assault Vest, and then smack the Suicune down with a Boom Burst. Hits for 420, haha. She brings in her Absol and tries to kill us with a Koto Cleave, which almost worked, but it feels the wrath of our voice as well. So she brings in a Ghost type of her own. We go Annabelle, and this thing tries to Shadow Ball us, but it doesn't know where it goes normal type. We chip it with Astonish and then Parting Shot out, going Sylvania, during a Dark Pulse, and then hitting it with Horn Leech. We go back to full health as it Shadow Balls. Critical hit kills us though, so I have to go in Isis, and her Astonish finishes it off. Meowscarada comes in next, and Flower tricks us instead of knocking off. We live and go for Iron Fangs, taking the kitty down, and then dying to our Life Orb. Air Force comes in against the Mega Evolving Infernape. We outspeed and hit it with Raging Souls, taking it down in one shot. IOC comes in next, but Dragapult is super fast, and our Parental Bond Draco Meteor is enough to take the fish down, netting us an easy victory. Outside the weather station, we run into May once again. We'll start with our birds. She goes for a Boom Burst. I go for Moonblast. I've got a much bulkier bird and take hers out. Goes into Rapidash and we go Levi, anticipating a high horsepower, but it actually wild charges. Funeral Pyre takes it down, and we protect to get a second Funeral Pyre off, taking it down to about half, then swap back into Luna. I take one hit, and then swap back out, letting Funeral Pyre do its job once again, taking down the Rapidash. May goes into her Golurk, and a Rage Fist takes Levi out. We go Isis and Astonish it. On the third hit, we get the Dead Power activation and it becomes cursed. And with all that damage stacked up, Shadow Fangs is enough to take it out next turn. May brings out Kudra, who gets hit with the Shadow Fangs as well. Just barely survives the first hit, and the second kills it. She brings out her own Mega Infernape Redux. It's like they hand these things out like candy. We bring Sylvania in. It goes for a cutesy slap, and we slap back much harder with Last Respect. A starter comes in and Mega Evolves, hitting us with X Scissor. We swap back into Luna to get Fog back up when it runs out, allowing Dual Chop to take us out, getting a clean switch. Back into Sylvania, and finish the Sceptile off, ending May's career good. Our final stop on the All-Girl Power Hour is Winona, widely regarded as the easiest gym leader in the game. She leads with Velozil and Firo, setting up Air Blower as we lead Levi and Luna, so the fog rolls in and our Funeral Pyre is lit. First turn we protect as they go for Ice Spinner into our bird. Firo uses Sky Attack, buffing itself, almost gets taken out by a critical Take Flight. Funeral Pyre ticks down the Velozil, then an Astonish from Isis almost takes it out. It survives, but is cursed. Firo Sky Attacks into Isis, taking her out, meaning the Velozil will be her only victim, and is then in turn taken out by a Pyro Ball from Levi. The Velozil dies to the curse, and we bring in our electric type. She Mega Evolves her Aerodactyl and brings out her Galarian Zapdos. We go for Protect with Levi once again, narrowly avoiding a Head Smash. Face Kick burns Tesla. A Boom Burst does massive damage to the Aerodactyl and takes the Zapdos out. At the end of turn, Funeral Pyre activates and the Aerodactyl goes down. Winona brings her Moltres out, heals our Fog with a Drought. We have to bring Luna back. Another Boom Burst from Tesla takes both of her Pokemon down to critical health. We swap out into Levi again. They can't break our specially defensive Mons. The Boom Burst finishes them off. Yeah, I guess she is that easy, huh? After defeating Winona, we grab ourselves a couple of new mons, including my favorite Redux Pokemon, Mega Redux Garchomp, and this guy, Redux Spiritomb, who will come in handy against Tate and Liza in a little bit. Now is the part of the game where I have to take a detour from doing the gym challenge to fight evil teams, but at least I find myself at Mount Pyre, my favorite location in the game. Did I mention I got a Mimikyu? Because I got a Mimikyu, and that's awesome. We have to fight Admin Matt, and he leads with a Volcanion. Volcanion Drizzle ability makes it rain, but our bird is slower and we get the fog, denying him his weather advantage. He misses a Thunder and we take flight out, going into Tesla just in case he tries to electric type attack again. Doesn't matter anyway because we're faster and a Boom Burst takes it down. Matt switches into Weavile, so we switch into Sandra, which might seem like a stupid idea, but I was really hoping it was going to go for a multi-hit attack and I wanted to do Rocky Helmet lulz. Weavile 2-taps our Sandcastle, then heals back up with Predator. We bring in Lovecraft, who gets Ice Sharded, activating Violent Rush, and setting up a Pixie Slash to take the Weavile down. Scizor comes in, which scares me out of Mimikyu, and I go back into Luna. He tanks a Bullet Punch, and then a double Iron Dash. I choose to stay in, sacking my bird off, and go into Isis, flinching with an Astonish, that the Scizor just barely survives, so I go for Bite. Matt brings out his Inteleon and Mega Evolves. Snipe Shot takes Isis out, and we bring Lovecraft back out, whose disguise restores because of the fog. Pixie Slash is almost enough, Snipe Shot breaks our disguise, and a Violent Rush Shadow Sneak finishes the Inteleon off. Pixie Slash the Crab Bruiser, but it hangs on by a thread, killing Mimikyu with an Earth Splitter. So we bring in Sylvania, who survives an attack and finishes it with Last Respect. Kilowattrel comes in, setting up Air Blower, and we swap into Tesla. It misses its Hurricane, and then eats a Requiem, just barely surviving, so we have to go for a second. This is not, however, the last time we will see Matt. Up ahead, Archie chooses not to fight us and punks out. Then some old people give us an emblem, and we use it to go track down Maxie, who, unfortunately for us, just got himself a Groudon. The battle begins and Maxie kicks it off with his Naganadel, and we lead with Luna as always, eating a Fire Blast but getting burned in the process. Taking flight out into our Redux Garchomp, Critical Sludge Wave doesn't do much, and a Shadow Claw rips Naganadel to pieces, getting us a speed boost from Haunting Frenzy as Maxie brings in his Primal Groudon. We get out of our Water type because of the sun, going into our own Fire type. He goes for a V-Create, which does a lot more damage than expected. Funeral Pyre ticks the Groudon down a bit, and we use our old Protect tricks to get another turn, getting him down to half. I see if Last Respects is enough to take it out, but it survives. And a final V-Create brings Levi down, leaving it wide open for a Shadow Sneak to take it out with all those defense drops. Pepsi brings his Great Tusk in, and we Pixie Slash it, doing massive damage with our Fairy type against this Fighting type. He goes for a Drill Run, breaking our disguise and activating our Violent Rush, hoping to take us out with Magnitude, but we live it, going for a Shadow Sneak, bringing the Great Tusk down, and Mimikyu dies to Life Orb. Luna comes out, setting the fog back up. Maxie goes into his other Mega Camerupt. He once again sets the sun, but we have to pivot out again, going into Sandra. Camerupt goes for Searing Shot, and I cross my fingers because she is physically defensive. And it seems to work because I live on 16, healing up just a bit with Soil Drain, but a second Searing Shot takes us down. I bring Luna out once again to get the fog going, and an Ominous Wind finishes Camerupt off. He brings out Walking Wake, and I'm really getting tired of the weather wars. I bring in Isis and Astonish it, then use the opportunity to bring Luna out once again. Hydro Steam takes us down, so that's our last chance to set fog, and we hit a second Astonish on the Walking Wake. Maxie's last Pokemon, Venusaur, also Mega Evolved. Totally vindicating my use of permanent Mega Mode, might I add. Isn't strong enough to take a Shadow Fangs from Iris, though. Goes down on the third hit, ending our Team Magma shenanigans for now. This guy comes in and offers to help us make trouble for Team Aqua, and then we teleport out to Slateport City where we watch Archie steal a sub. Making our way through Team Aqua's secret base now, we once again find ourselves fighting Admin Matt. He predictably leads with his Volcanion, so we switch into Tesla hoping to absorb his Thunder. But he misses anyway. He goes down to a Boom Burst. He then brings out a Barraskewda, which I don't remember from last time. We swap into Sandra and allow it to Wave Crash into our Rocky Helmet, increasing our defense with Water Compactor and taking him down to about half. He goes for a second Wave Crash, doesn't do nearly as much this time thanks to our increased defense, and we get another boost. With him just deciding to self-destruct, I decide to shore up and heal myself. And sure enough, he takes himself down, so I Stealth Rock. Matt brings out a Blastoise, and may Kelly forgive me for what I'm about to do. Tesla easily tanks a Hydro Cannon, then Boom Burst blows the Blastoise to pieces. Kilowattrel comes out, and I think, what can this thing possibly do to damage me? But turns out it's got Ghost-type Weather Ball. We survive, though, and take it out with a Requiem. Crab Bruiser comes on out, we go into Sandra, anticipating a multi-hit move, and I was right. Sandra dies, but funny things happen in the process, and I go into Lovecraft, Pixie Slash, and finish the Crab Bruiser. Sneasler comes out, and I say, let's just Shadow Claw, completely ignoring the Dire Claw's type advantage against my fairy, because I still have my disguise. Going in for the kill with Shadow Sneak, making Matt look real weak, but turns out he knew he was, and he was just stalling me. Alrighty friends, next up is the 7th gym, and it's the part where the game stops being real easy after acquiring your shiny new Mega Stones and everybody starts to roll you again, just like the beginning. Kate and Liza is actually my least favorite fight in the game, I'm not going to lie. Not only is it a double battle, which I am just not fond of, there are more mechanics than you can shake a stick at. They're going to be coming at me with Psychic Terrain boosted expanding forces from a super slow bulky team aided by Trick Room, all in an inverse battle, meaning their Psychic is super effective against my Ghost. The Twin Terrors lead with a Blobby Boy and a Tapu as I go double Spiritomb, using Disco to Toxic into the Tapu, netting a Confusion in the process from Poison Puppeteer, and then almost going down to an Aura Sphere. Vortex uses Hypnotize, putting the Reuniclus to sleep, and Attack Order finishes my Redux Spiritomb off. Mandy Drain Punches the Reuniclus, then takes a bit of damage from Attack Order, taking Lele's life away with Confusion. Banding Force hits Vortex, but not very hard due to his special defense buffs. We then use another Banish Power, getting a 3rd defense buff. Mandy Drain Punches to heal up a little bit, but Attack Order ends up taking her down. We send in Levi, and the Reuniclus goes for Psychic on Vortex. We try to Hypnotize it again, but miss. Tapu Lele dies for Poison, and Calyrex comes out. The critical Psychic finishes off Vortex, then a Glacial Lance almost does the same to Levi. Will-O-Wisp the Calyrex to cripple it, just chill out, letting Funeral Pyre take it down a bit. Dreadnought comes in, takes way more damage than I thought from a Psychic, then uses Steel Roller to get rid of the terrain. Vernucleus goes for Zen Headbutt, but Levi protects, and Funeral Pyre takes the Calyrex down to half. I go for a cheeky double protect, as the Expanding Force gets my Dreadnought down on 1. A Leaf Blade finally divides this cell, and we heal up with Soul Eater, then take minimal damage from a Glacial Lance. Calyrex goes down to Burn and Curse. We bring our Annihilate in against Oranguru, and they go Mega Slowbro, as Levi protects. We go Drain Punch into the Slowbro, but it barely does anything. Oranguru is hurt by the curse, and Levi heals a little with leftovers. Scald hits a Kai, and Hyper Voice hits both of my Mons, and we retaliate with a Drain Punch to Pyro Ball, nearly taking the Oranguru out. Funeral Pyre does. Slow King comes in, and we protect with Levi, getting put to sleep with Hakai, but even asleep, he still tanks, and we could just stall out and let Funeral Pyre do a bit. Protect gets the Slow King down to half, and they thankfully keep attacking into my sleeping guy. Hakai wakes up and Drain Punches the Slow King right in the face, actually getting a good chunk of health back between Drain Punch and Shell Bell. Funeral Pyre finishes the Slow King. Slowbro scalds into Hakai once again. We Drain Punch it, even though it doesn't do much, then go for a Pyro Ball with Levi, getting a clutch burn. It almost dies to Funeral Pyre, and then Hakai gets the kill with Drain Punch. We get our Mind Badge and can proceed to the space station. Heading up the stairs, I prepare myself for the game's second gauntlet battle, just like the Aqua one from earlier. We have to fight 3 Magma Grunts in a row without healing. The first guy leads with a Rotom, part Ghost in this game, and I go Serana for the first time in a long time, absolutely annihilating. His second Pokemon, Fanfernal, is also a Ghost type, oddly enough. And Serana does about 60% before being crit by a Shadow Ball and going down herself. Fanfernal gets a speed boost, so I have to send in Rain, and she smashes the pumpkin like it's 1979. Unfortunately, Bro's last Pokemon is a Centiskorch. I say unfortunate for him because I'm using an overpowered water type. Fire Fang doesn't do much at all, and thankfully I don't get burned, and then Aqua Cutter slices the Centiskorch down the middle. 1 down, 2 to go. The second guy leads Hippowdon, and I know what I must do. This is exactly what I brought Sandra for. It hilariously uses Aqua Fangs into my Water Compactor, raising my defense, and also taking damage from my Rocky Helmet. I flinched, but that's okay because I don't actually have to do anything. It's gonna hurt itself. So I go for Stealth Rocks. With Hippowdon seemingly content to raise my defense into oblivion, I just sit there and let it do it. But then it goes for a Crunch, which is a little bit scarier, so I have to shore up, regaining my health as he goes into his next Pokemon, Sandaconda, which Mega Evolves and hits me with a Scorching Sands. I go for Giga Drain, thinking it would be super effective in doing a lot, but apparently not. So I swap out into Luna to get the Fog, get myself a little bit of a defense boost, as he goes for Big Bang Attack, emulating Vegeta. Just like Vegeta, his Big Bang actually does nothing, and I pivot out into Levi, allowing Funeral Pyre to take this thing down for me for a protect. The last Pokemon is a Alolan Dugtrio, and thankfully I was already in on my fire type. I am able to easily handle an Iron Head, and then take it down with Pyro Ball, hitting us our second victory. Now we just have one more to go, until we can move on to the admin. Third Grunt leads with Garbodor, and that makes me really happy, because not only do I love the Mega, but it's actually my son's favorite Pokemon. He starts going for Bulk Up, which is awesome because that's actually the set that I used on mine when I played Mono Steel. As it keeps bulking up its physical defense, I go for Soil Drain, super effective special hit, and get a critical, taking it down in one shot. They then go into Glamora and Baneful Bunker. Glamora charges up with Space Power, and then unleashes a Meteor Beam right into Sandra, doing a lot more than I thought it would actually. But it's okay because we have Soil Drain, we can just get most of that back. Our third Pokemon is another Poison-type Beedrill. It goes for a Drill Run, and I switch out, avoiding it with Levi's Levitate, and using Protect to get 2 turns of Funeral Pyre off. Beedrill goes cross-poison, but it doesn't do much, even with a critical hit. We are able to finish the battle with a Pyro Ball, allowing us to move one step further, the double battle with Steve. The only thing standing in our way now is the admin. Tabitha leads Gigalith, and I go Luna just to get my fog up, but I'm actually faster and end up losing the Weather War, so I swap out into Dreadnought. It comes in on a Weather Ball, and even though it's not very effective, it still does massive damage. So I flip turn out, activating its berry, going back into Luna, the fog up for real this time. I pivot out again, going back into Dreadnought, and allow a Weather Ball to take it out, sacrificing him to get a clean switch into Rain, getting a crit, and absolutely smashing the Gigalith. The next mon to come in is Redux Arcanine, who just barely survives my Shadow Claw, hitting me with a Wood Hammer and taking Rain down, or it being hit by its recoil, and going down itself. I go into Serana then, as the admin pulls out their scissor, making me immediately turn tail into Levi. Yeah, that double Iron Bash would not have felt good on a rock type. Levi's built for that. Funeral Pyre goes off at the end of turn, and I figure I can Protect to get a second one off, making it just a little bit more squishy for our Pyro Ball. Ends up finishing the job, getting us some health back with Soul Eater. Steelix comes in next and Mega Evolves. And I cannot use my Funeral Pyre strategy here because it has Impenetrable, so I go for Will-O-Wisp to mitigate damage. Very glad that I Will-O-Wisped. It hits me with a Jagged Fangs. And I go for a Pyro Ball to see how much I can do, getting a crit. Second Pyro Ball brings it down to the red, and I use Last Respects to finish it off, getting a significant chunk of health back as they bring out Galdarm. I Protect and get a Funeral Pyre trigger, and then with enough health regained, decide to tank an Ice Punch. It gets the Frostbite on me, which is nonsense because I go for a Will-O-Wisp and miss. Deciding now to just Protect again and let Funeral Pyre do the work, and then finish it off with Last Respects just like the last guy. Our last Pokemon is Claydol. Honestly an interesting choice, but it won't do much here against my Ghost team. I Protect to let Funeral Pyre do a little bit of chip, and then pay my final respects to Tabitha, and get ready to go help Steve against Maxie. I'm actually excited for this fight because the last time I did it, I was using Mono Ice and it terrified me. But this time, Steve and I have a much better chance. I pick my 3, and so does Steve, bringing Iron Treads, Boca, and his signature Metagross. The Magma pair lead with their legendaries, and Steve's Iron Tread sets up spikes, as Groudon reverts to its primal form, setting up the harsh sunlight, and denying me my fog boost. Iron Treads goes for Mountain Junk, taking the Raging Bolt down in one shot, as Groudon V-creates into Luna, similarly bringing her down as well, but lowering its own defenses in the process. I bring Levi out, as they go Redux Nucleus, which Mystical fires into the Iron Treads, but it survives thanks to its Focus Sash. It retaliates with a Mountain Chunk, which the Nucleus cannot survive, as I Protect with Levi and Funeral Pyre the Groudon. Charizard comes out getting a Sun Worship boost and Mega Evolving into Y, so I swap out into Sandra as the Iron Tread goes down. Steve brings out his Metagross and Mega Evolves, and I let Sandra eat the Heat Wave, which Metagross thankfully dodges, retaliating with a Pyrokinetic Slam, cracking Groudon with a Pyrokinetic Slam, bringing the big boy down. I tried to Soil Drain, but I had no target because the Groudon was gone. So Sandra's turn was wasted, and she goes down to an Air Slash from the Charizard, as the Metagross high horsepowers into a Reshiram, and Steve really pulls his weight. I swing back around into Levi, setting the Funeral Pyre up once again, as Maxie brings out his Skarmory and Mega Evolves, getting a blistering speed boost into this beautiful Phoenix. I protect, and the Metagross dodges the Heat Wave again, but goes down to a Flame Tongue, meaning it's up to Levi and Iron Voca to finish the job. The Voca's Relic Song hits the Skarmory, but Charizard manages to avoid it, as it uses Heat Wave and brings the Voca down, meaning it's just Levi left to tank everything himself. He eats a Flame Tongue, and then uses Last Respects, making this an even fight by taking out the Charizard, and getting a little bit of health back with Soul Eater. Funeral Pyre ticks the Skarmory down, and I go for Protect, leaving it absolutely crippled after a second tick. So I'll use a second Protect and finish the job, ending the fight with Curse. After getting the crap kicked out of him, Maxie decides that perhaps getting rid of all the water in the world isn't the best idea, and as a reward for helping him, Steve gives me Dive, allowing me to access the final gym. After getting Dive from Steven, we make our way to the Seafloor Cavern, where we find Archie. Or Archie finds us, I guess, because he comes from behind? I don't know. We find each other as he summons Kyogre. Then, just like Maxie, he begins challenging us, flexing his other legendary, but his is Raikou, who tries to set up the rain, but Luna is slower and brings the fog in as we pivot out into Dreadnought. Raikou goes for Electric Shot, sucking in some electricity and boosting its attack up, then unleashing it in a Makanko Sapo, but it deals no damage to our Grass type, and we crit a Leaf Blade, taking Raikou down in one shot. Archie brings his Sharpedo in and Mega Evolves, hitting Violent Rush, dealing a whole bunch of Dark type damage to me. But my Dreadnought is a bulky boy, and he's fine. Hitting back with super effective Leaf Blade and critting again, ending the Sharpedo and healing up with Soul Eater. Another Mega Redux Garchomp comes in, and I know to fear this thing personally. Davey utterly walls it on the Shadow Claw though and allays my fears. Once again using Leaf Blade, but not getting a one-shot this time. I barely survive a second Shadow Claw, and then take it down with one of my own. Getting a little bit of a buffer, but there's no way I can survive Iron Moth. Thankfully it goes for an electric attack, and I flip turn out, taking it down to its sash, leaving it wide open for Lovecraft to finish with a Shadow Sneak. Kyogre finally makes its debut, so I switch out into Annabelle, preparing my ultimate troll tactic as it goes for an Origin Pulse. That's exactly what I wanted though, and it takes me down to my Focus Sash, and I go for Destiny Bond, completely circumventing the Kyogre in the most hilarious way. That is actually the sole reason I brought Bayonet to this fight. The really annoying Wo-Chien comes out next, and I use Tesla to Ghastly Echo out, buffing Lovecraft, who uses his disguise to tank a Ruination. Getting Violent Rush, buffing Pixie Slash even more. We're able to survive a second Ruination and Pixie Slash again, getting a crit this time, finishing the Wo-Chien and Archie off. As the cave starts to collapse, Archie and I run outside, where Maxie is waiting for us. Together, the two of them decide to do a little bit of soul searching. Steve comes in, and is like, "Yo dude, what is going on with the weather?" We show up to Sootopolis only to witness the coolest thing that has ever occurred on a Game Boy Advance. This cutscene is absolutely baller. Just like Chuck Norris from the Ultimate Showdown, Rayquaza descends from the sky, then uses his angry old man powers to tell Kyogre and Groudon to get off his lawn, before ascending back to heaven, like a Giga Chad. And just like that, the weather is gone. We can talk to these idiots, and make our way to the final gym, which is actually a series of gauntlet battles. The final gym leaders of Wallace and Juan fight us in a double battle twice, so that's 6v12 if you're counting, and if that sounds like bullshit, that's because it is. They lead with the Redux Nucleus and a Politoed. I lead with Pringles the Jellicent and Lovecraft Mimikyu. Pringles sets up Fog, and I go for Swords Dance with Lovecraft. Their Politoed goes for Surf, hitting everything around it, breaking my disguise and activating Violent Rush. I use Toxic on the Nucleus, which retaliates into Pringles with Thunder. We use Protect to heal up a little bit, and then electrically eviscerate the Politoed with Shocking Edge. They bring in a Kingdra and Mega Evolve, so I swap out Pringles for Tesla, using his Assault Vest to tank a Dragon Pulse, and Pixie Slashing the Dragon, bringing it down in one hit. The Nucleus goes for a Thunder into my Electric type and does nothing, and they bring out their first legendary Manaphy. I bring out my Dreadnought, who takes a Brine, and then the follow-up Surf, as Explode retaliates with a Boom Burst, bringing the Nucleus down, as well as the Manaphy. They bring out an Electric Immune Kyossi, so I swap back into Pringles to get the Fog back up. He takes an Aqua Bash, and I use Aqua Ring with Davey, giving him a little bit of longevity. Kyossi goes for Drill Peck, but Pringles protects. Then I use Shadow Claw with Dreadnought to do a little bit of damage. Another Drill Peck gets through and kills my Jellicent, and a second Shadow Claw takes it to half. A critical ambush fails to fillet this fish, but Davey has to finish it off with Leaf Blade. As they go into their next legendary, Urshifu, who Mega Evolves, and almost brings Isis down with a Jet Punch, but fails to, and goes down to a Shadow Fangs, getting us our first victory out of 2. Much more aggressive Kyogre and a Redux Garchomp immediately reverts to its primal form and Mega Evolve. Going for an Aqua Cutter into my Exploud, taking it out. Getting a speed boost as Kyogre's Origin Pulse breaks Mimikyu's disguise. So I go into Isis, astonishing the Kyogre. Getting a Dead Power trigger. She only had a little bit of life left though and goes down to her Life Orb. And I finish off the Garchomp with a Shadow Sneak from Lovecraft. The Kyogre gets afflicted by its curse as they bring out their Volcanion. And I bring out my Redux Garchomp, who goes for a Shadow Claw, critical hitting and taking the Volcanion down. Kyogre Sheer Cold kills Mimikyu, just barely survives the curse. They bring out a Kilowattrel, Electro Balling into Rain, taking her down, leaving me with just Davy, who takes a Thunder from the Kyogre, but gets paralyzed in the process. I use Creeping Thorns, setting up Grass-type Stealth Rock, ensuring that whatever comes in after the Kyogre dies to its curse gets hit a little bit. It ends up being a Golisopod. Kilowattrel hits hard with a Hurricane, and the Golisopod uses Razor Shell, getting a critical hit. I Shadow Claw the Kilowattrel, then heal up a little bit with Leftovers as it thankfully misses its next attack. Golisopod's Razor Shell doesn't do much, and it might actually have hurt itself a little bit more with Life Orb. I use Shadow Claw to finish the Kilowattrel, getting a bunch of health back with Soul Eater, and then set up an Aqua Ring to buy more time. Another Razor Shell crits me, taking me down to the red, and I use Leaf Blade, not doing much. Everything I healed back is sapped away by yet another crit, as I hit a Leaf Blade to finally finish the Golisopod off. Swampert comes in and is halved by the Creeping Thorns, Mega Evolving, going for a Seismic Fist, which I just barely survived, taking him down with a Leaf Blade. And if it looks like I'm really excited here, that's because this fight took me 15 tries. After making my way across the ocean, we take a moment to appreciate the beauty of Evergrande before making our way into the cave, where Wally is waiting to challenge us once again. He leads with a Hisui and Arcanine, and I with Levi, using Protect to circumvent his Violent Rush. After Funeral Pyre does some damage to him, I swap out into Davy, predicting the Rock-type move. He then goes for a Flare Blitz, doing considerable damage to himself and me. Flip Turn Out, finishing him off, getting some health back with Soul Eater, and going into Isis. I'd like to Astonish the Savella, but I can't because it's Normal type, so I just go for Bite, which flinches it, allowing the curse to finish it off. Wally then brings out Iron Valiant, and Gallantry sets up Protect. I go for Iron Fangs, and the first hit breaks through the wall. The second hit is able to damage him, also triggering Dead Power. Isis then goes down to a Pixie Slash. I bring Rain in, and finish the Valiant off with Shadow Claw. Wally then switches into Latios, and Mega Evolves it. I go for Dragon Claw, hoping it will be enough to bring it down in one shot. It is not, but I do, however, get the bleed. And a lucky flinch. I swap out into Levi, eating a Shadow Ball, and letting Funeral Pyre finish the Latios off. Wally then brings out Urshifu when I try to Protect, completely forgetting about Unseat Fist, and it goes right through. I go into Luna then, setting up Fog. She gets mangled pretty bad by a Triple Axle, but manages to survive, taking the Urshifu down with an Ominous Wind. Wally then brings out his last Pokemon, Shaman, flinching with an Air Slash, and finishing Luna off with a second. I go into Rain, who comes in on a Seed Flare, it's barely surviving, hitting the Shaman with a Frost Brand, and taking it out despite the Focus Sash. Wally, it was a brief rivalry, but at least you weren't me. We take on the Elite Four and Champion. I figured we would take a second to stop and look at our final six. First off, we have Luna, our Fog Setter. We also have Dab on Fairy-type moves, which will be important against Sydney. We have a -speed Nature on her to ensure that we get the weather going, as well as Ominous Wind to take advantage of the fog that she sets. Next up is the Multi-Mouth Goddess Isis, with her ever-potent Dead Power. We're running a Jolly Nature, with Astonish, and several moves to take advantage of Strong Jaw. We then have our Redux Garchomp Rain, who hits twice with boosted slashing moves, decked out with a moveset to take advantage of that. We have Levi with Fire Scales to mitigate damage taken and ensure that he gets as many Funeral Pyres as possible. He's got an Adamant Nature to hit hard with Last Respects and Pyro Ball. Up next we have our Assault Vest Exploud Tesla with a Modest Nature, making its Boom Burst hit like a truck. Also sporting Gaslight Gopher Pivot and some Hidden Power Tech. We then have Redknaw Davy, very bulky boy, with an Admin Nature, and Hard Press to negate opponent's abilities. We sure have our work cut out for us, because the first of the Elite Four is Sydney the Dark-type Master, who has a distinct advantage against our Ghost team. He leads with a Redux Alakazam, and we lead Rain. It attempts to use Scratch, but it doesn't have any effect. It then Mega Evolves and tries to look really scary, but Rain is faster and takes it down with an X-Scissor. Sydney goes into Chi-Yu, and I swap it into Luna to get the fog up. He endures a Dark Pulse, but can't live a second one, and we swap back into Rain, slicing Chi-Yu up with Aqua Cutter. Sydney then brings out King Gambit. We go for Aqua Cutter again, getting a bleed and a flinch, and Rain makes easy prey of the Supreme Overlord. Sydney then switches out into Yevatol. We go for an Aqua Cutter, but it doesn't do much. Does get a flinch though. A Batty Bad takes us down to the red, and we manage to get a bleed on it before finally going down. We bring Isis out and Astonish, then swap out into Tesla to tank its special attack. It crits a second one, however, taking Tesla down. So we go into Levi and Protect, letting the bleed finish it off. Sydney sends a Mawile out, and it Mega Evolves, going for a Shadow Fangs into Levi, which I knew was going to tear him apart. So I swap into Isis, Astonishing, and getting a dead power trigger, and then out into Davy, who is easily able to endure the Iron Fang, letting the curse finish the Mawile off. Sydney's final Pokemon is a Darkrai, who does massive damage to Davy with a Dark Pulse, as we flip turn out into Isis, whose Astonish just barely doesn't take it out. So we swap back into Davy, sacrificing him to another Dark Pulse to get a second Astonish, and the victory against Sydney. We are now free to move on to the second Elite Four member, Phoebe, much more even in typing as we're both using Ghost. Hardcore as hell, she leads with the Giratina, immediately reverting to its origin form. I go Astonish with Isis, then Outspeed with Bite, finishing the Giratina. She sends out a Mega Houndoom Redux, and I misjudge exactly how fast this thing is, losing Isis to her Raging Souls. But I send out Rain, and she is still faster, taking it down with a Shadow Claw. Phoebe sends out a Gyaradeath next, Mega Evolving it into an X. Rain uses Shadow Claw, second hit takes the Gyaradeath down. Phoebe then sends out Necrozma. It survives a Shadow Claw critical hit, killing Rain with a Dark Pulse. I bring Luna in against a Moongeist Beam. She takes heavy damage and take flights out, killing the Necrozma in the process. We pivot into Levi, and Phoebe sends out her non-Ghost Pheromosa, hitting us hard with Axe Kick, but going down to a Pyro Ball. We heal up with Soul Eater. Phoebe sends out a Marshadow. It gets to use Spectral Thief on entry, then outspeeds with a Wicked Blow, critical hitting and killing Levi. We swap into Davy. We go for Shadow Claw. Marshadow survives with a Focus Sash. Second Shadow Claw finishes it off, and Phoebe is out of Pokemon already. Opening up the door to our third encounter against the Ice Master Glacie. Leads with a Lapras, setting up the Hail, and Mega Evolving into Mega Lapras Y. I go for Astonish with Isis, getting a Dead Power Trigger, and then swap out into Luna, taking the Weather back and tanking a Boom Burst. Lapras's Freeze Dry manages to get a Frostbite on me, but I heal up all the damage that it did with Moonlight. As it almost dies to Curse, I try to take it down with Funeral Pyre, but it uses Recover. And after a double Curse Stick, I try to finish it off with Last Respects, but don't quite deal enough damage. Water-type Boom Burst deals massive damage to Levi, however, and the Funeral Pyre finally finishes it off. Glacia brings out her Chien-Pao, and we protect against its Crunch. The little bit of life we got back was not enough to protect us from its Crunch another turn, however. So we go into Isis and Astonish, trying to get a Dead Power Trigger, but that doesn't work, and she too goes down to Chien-Pao's Crunch. I bring out Rain and outspeed with an X-Scissor. Glacia then goes into Articuno, setting up an Aurora Veil. So I swap out into Tesla, who takes a Sheer Cold, hitting the Articuno with Electric Boom Burst, and then taking it down with a second. Kyurem White comes in, using a Blue Flare against Tesla, nearly taking him down, as I go for Requiem. And then swap out into Rain, killing the Kyurem with a Dragon Claw. Glacia sends out her Dugong, Mega Evolving it. And I swap back out into Luna, setting the Fog up once again. Dugong goes for Freeze Dry, and then a Blizzard. Both super effective, but can't kill my bird. I take Flight out, going into Davy. He takes a Blizzard himself, and uses Leaf Blade, fishing for a bleed but not getting it. I go for a Hard Press, doing about as much damage as the Leaf Blade, but the Dugong slacks off, healing everything I did. Leaf Blade crit does massive damage, taking the Dugong down, and healing us up with Soul Eater, as Glacia goes into her Redux Beedrill, also Mega Evolving that. Going for a Priority Ice Shard, which was the wrong play, getting bodied by a Hard Press, ending Glacia's career, and opening up the door to the fourth Elite Four member against the Mustache Dragon Master Drake. He leads with the Dragon God of Time Dialga and immediately reverts it to its origin form. I go Isis and hit it with the Dead Power Astonish. Switching out into Tesla, getting hit by a Steel Beam critical hit. We hit it back with Requiem, and then it goes for Stealth Rock, and we have to get hit by another Steel Beam again before a third Requiem can finally finish the job. Drake brings out Baryon next, and we go for Boom Burst, thinking it would do a lot more than it does. The Baryon counters with Earth Power, putting Tesla in the ground. So we swap into Luna, swap back into Levi, and get the Funeral Pyre lit. Your Cold doesn't do much to our Fire type, and we go for Protect, getting 2 turns of Curse damage out of it. We then use Pyro Ball, thinking that it would be enough to finish burying off. It hangs on by a thread, and is killed by the Funeral Pyre. Giga Chad Drake then brings out his Rayquaza, pushing so hard that it Mega Evil. We go for a Protect, getting a turn of Funeral Pyre, and then swap out into Davy, who tanks Draconic Fangs, and hits the Rayquaza with a Hard Press. Another Draconic Fangs fails to take us out, and we go for Shadow Claw, critting and taking the Rayquaza down. Drake then brings in Koraidon, who kills Davy with a Sacred Fire. We swap back out into Luna, setting the Fog up again, attacking the Dragon Fighting type. It survives and kills Luna, so we swap out into Levi, protecting against its Draconic Fangs, time with our Curse. We manage to survive Draconic Fangs, and then go for a Last Respect, taking the Koraidon down, as Drake switches into Kyurem Black. We protect, it gets damaged by the Curse, Then next turn hits us with a Bolt Strike. It paralyzes us, and we burn it with a Will-O-Wisp. We're lucky enough that it protects as we get full parried. Turn we use Protect. Kyurem is finished off by Funeral Pyre. Drake's last Pokemon is a Haxorus, becomes the Dragon Steel Mega Haxorus. I go for Protect against its Dual Chop, and it gets hurt by the Funeral Pyre, and then kills Levi with a critical Excalibur. So I swap out into Isis, hitting it with an Astonish, hitting a dead power trigger, it off with Bite. With Drake defeated, the only thing standing between us, ultimate victory, is the champion Steven Stone. Before we begin this final fight, I just want to take a moment to extend a heartfelt thank you to all the developers, Discord mods, artist crew, and community as a whole. Thank you for making this wonderful game what it is. Let's finish this. Steve leads with the Kartana, and we lead Luna to get the fog rolling in one last time. The Kartana crits a Leaf Blade, but doesn't even get us down to half. Take Flight out, doing massive damage, going into Levi. End of turn, Funeral Pyre activates, and then we Protect, making Kartana just fuel for the fire. Zacian comes in next, trying to show us how glorious it is. But Levi survives a Diamond Blade and kicks a Pyro Ball right into its mouth. It survives by a hair, taken down by Funeral Pyre. Quite angry that we kicked his dog, Steve brings out his signature Metagross, Mega Evolving the monster, as we Protect, narrowly avoiding its Psychokinetic Slam, triggering Funeral Pyre. A second Psychokinetic Slam takes Levi down, and we go into Davy, who makes the attack look like nothing, hitting back with a Shadow Claw, taking Metagross out. Steve then swaps out into his Mewtwo, Mega Evolving into Mega Mewtwo Y, and using Flamethrower, hits Davy very hard till we flip turn out. Going into Tesla, surviving a Side Strike with our Assault Vest, and hitting it with Requiem. Steve switches into Heatran, but we go Luna, then goes for a Burn Up, which we survive going for Ominous Wind, then we swap out into Tesla, who eats a Flash Cannon, and then an Earth Power, going for a hidden power ground of its own against the Heatran. Steve's last Pokemon is a Zamazenta. We hard swap into Luna, dying to Double Iron Bash, and then going Isis. He's just not built for this, and dies to a Double Iron Bash crit. We swap out into Rain, going for Aqua Cutter, getting a Bleed, flinching the Zamazenta, then swapping back into Tesla, sacrificing him, stalling at a Bleed turn, and then going into Davy. Davy survives a Double Iron Bash, but flinches, yanking another and then hard pressing. Davy hangs on like a champ and goes for a Shadow Claw, bringing the Zamazenta down into the red, and then goes down to 2 life, buying us one more turn of Bleed, before finally going down to an Ice Fangs. The Zamazenta bleeds out, and I still have another Pokemon left, making me the victor, and Hoenn champion.